Well, hi Northridge family. It is so good to connect with you again Thursday live, and so I just want to say a special thank you. So whatever's going on in your life, whatever's swirling, that you would set aside the time to connect with me and allow me to connect with you on this beautiful Thursday evening. I am so grateful and so appreciated, and it's so affirming that have so many people in the Northridge family who are this committed and faithful and caring to be engaged this way. So wherever you are in the world, and I know many of you are traveling around all the United States and internationally even, just welcome and thanks for being here. And I have to tell you, we're kind of back to a normal Thursday live. In fact, I'll tell you right up front, my plan is for it to be shorter, which means it's probably going to be a lot longer, but it's going to be probably a shorter version of Northridge Live. But if last week was your first one, then you got spoiled beyond spoiled, because our worship team gave us such an opportunity and such an environment and such a compelling motivation to connect with God and to worship through our live worship experience with them. And it just made that Thursday live experience so good. And I don't know about you, but it set me up for the week. And now we get to connect again this way. And so thank you for joining me. And I'm just excited about connecting with my church family. And if you're a guest from somewhere around the world or even from close to Northridge Church, we're glad to have you. But I have to tell you, as the pastor of Northridge, I feel like I'm one of the most privileged people on the planet. This is such a beautiful church family, such an engaged church family, such a loving church family. We're flawed. Starting with the senior pastor, Brad Powell, we're flawed, we're broken, none of us are perfect. We're redeemed by Jesus' grace, his undeserved grace, through repentance and faith in him, and then he has redeemed us, created in us a new heart and a new mind and a new life, and made it possible for us to experience what we can't earn on our own, a relationship with God. And so though flawed and broken and still influenced by darkness and shadows and still blowing it once in a while, we get to have a relationship with Jesus. And because we know his love and experience his love, we get to know what it's like to have community with each other and love for one another. And this is an affirming and missionally based church family, and I once again want to say thank you to all of you who are a part of it. And so I'm excited. And to me, what Thursday Live offers is a touch of sanity in an insane world. I mean, seriously. And that's why I try not to use Thursday Live or turn our weekends into a ton of communication about the insanity. You get enough of that day in, day out, night in, night out, week in, week out. And so when we get together, we try and, have a touch of sanity in this insane world, in this world that's just so filled with trouble and difficulty and pain and disappointment and grief and loss and injustice and discouragement and fear and all those other things we get to have by connecting with each other who experience God's love and God's hope and God's grace and goodness, and we can encourage each other that way. We get to experience some comfort, a touch of comfort. That's what we get here. And in this crazy world, a touch of hope. And if we focus on the events of our world, the crazy injustices and crazy reactions and the rage and all the junk that's happening in our world and the social unrest and, Kenosha, Wisconsin, and just the tragic disruption of our nation and our people is just a crazy thing. And the pain and the loss and the hurt and the disappointment and the fear, it's just crazy. And then add to that the hurricane that just hit on the Gulf Coast Louisiana in particular, and we have such a burden for that part of the world at Northridge because after Katrina 15 years ago, Northridge sent hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people down over the course of years to help them get back on their feet and start over again. And we have such a heart, and now this huge natural disaster and just this craziness that's going on in our world, the pandemic and all that still goes on with that, the hyper focus on bitter and political vitriol that we're going through right now. It's crazy, and so we get to come together, and instead of flowing in the current of despair, which is all that you'd have if that was your focus, we get to have a touch of hope and encourage each other that way. And so I needed you. I hope you need me. I hope tonight will be an encouragement to all of you. In fact, I thought of a couple of passages. Psalm 46, verses 10 through 11, he says, "Be still and know that I am God." Be still and know that I know the world's disruptive. I know that the world's dark. I know that the world's crazy. And all these things that we're experiencing today, they experienced crazy stuff like that then. Humans were humans, and are humans, and all that junk. And he says, be still and know that I am God. And then he gives us this confidence, and I really want to encourage you with this. I will be exalted among the nations, God says. I will be exalted in the earth. The Lord Almighty is with us, the psalmist says. The God of Jacob is our fortress. And here's what I need. I need a be still and know that I'm God moment with you, so that I can remember, oh yeah, God wins. Oh yeah, God will be exalted. Oh yeah, God's justice wins. Oh yeah, God's righteousness is real. God's promises are true. Hope is alive, right? And I believe you need to be still and know that I'm God moment. And that's what this is. And it makes me think of Luke 19, 45 and 46. Our reactions to the trouble of this world is, to engage it and try and control it and create what we want out of it. And a lot of times that comes into the church and spiritual lives. And I have friends who are pastoring in environments where the people, the rage from the world is really creeping into the community of their churches, and it's just so discouraging. And I want you to know, Northridge, though we have a couple of elements around that, and people wrongly interpreting some events with us and our leadership and all that, but very few. This is such an affirming church. But what happens is we bring it in the church and we fight and rage and try and become zealots for our cause and make our issue the issue the church should be about. And we want the news to determine what the church should be focused on instead of what God said the church should be focused on, Jesus. And the church in Jesus' day was doing that, and they were just messing up royally, and Jesus went nuts. He went into the temple courts, and he drove out those who were turning the church into stuff it wasn't supposed to be, and turned over the money changers' tables. And then this is what he said in Luke 19:46. It is written, my house will be a house of prayer, but you have made it a den of robbers. You've made it something it's not supposed to be. My house will be a house of prayer. It's first talked about in Isaiah, and Jesus is repeating it. God's house is supposed to be a house of prayer. Can I just tell you, prayer is what we as believers have that the world doesn't have. The world can have protests, the world can have elections, the world can have abuse of power, the world can have people powering up on each other, the world can have rage, the world can have, all kinds of stuff. But the thing the world doesn't have is what we as believers have: prayer, a connection with God Almighty. And we have to be still and know that He's God, and prayer is one of the ways that we can do that. And prayer is, you have to know, there's purpose in prayer, there's power in prayer, there's peace in prayer, because it's about connecting to the God of peace, the God of power, the God of purpose. And here's what I think in this crazy world of ours. Our country needs prayer. Our world needs prayer. because our world needs purpose and power and peace, and God's the place to go to it. And don't believe these people who say, stop saying you'll pray for me, just do something. Well, you know what? It's humans doing something all the time that often messes things up. And yes, love does, but first love has to overflow from the grace that we receive from Jesus, and that starts with prayer. And I think too many people are doing without first praying and being connected to God, and so it's not love does, it's anger does, it's rage does, it's grief does, it's loss does, it's disappointment does, and we need to pray. So I have a couple of things I want to share with you about things going on at Northridge that I'm really excited about, but there's no way with people suffering on the Gulf Coast states and Louisiana in the wake of Hurricane Laura that I cannot pray first. And with all the rage that's going on and the social unrest and the disappointment and the throat-on-throat attacks that everybody's having, I just felt like, why don't we start with being what we're supposed to be as believers, engaging that which we as believers are the only ones that have, prayer, okay? So rather than ending that way, I'm going to start that way and then give you a couple announcements, and then we can be on our way. So let's pray together, okay? Father, it's in this moment right now that we're gathered, and we're coming from all kinds of different places today. Work and struggle and disappointment and challenges, and we're getting ready for dinner, all kinds of things going on. But we just want to stop as your people and pray. Because in you we find purpose, in you we find power, in you we find peace. And so I do pray for the ongoing crazy social unrest that's being experienced in our country, and the onslaught that is coming with the rage and the attacks from so many different angles, some justified, much not. And none of it really bringing solution. It's just often bringing more darkness. And I just ask that, God, you would insert your grace, your love, that you would help people reconnect to and find your purpose, that you would help us and them to experience your power to overcome, and that you would give peace in the midst of the storm, that you would be exalted, and that we would remember that you're the exalted one, that you win, and that we would let you be our fortress. Pray for everyone hurting in the wake of the injustices being experienced in this world on every side and with every angle, and oh my gosh, the racial junk that's going on. And I forgive us who are believers for not reflecting the heart and love of Jesus better. Help us to do that with one another and in our world. But God, I just pray that you'd give peace and strength and purpose. And then, God, for those suffering on the Gulf Coast states in the wake of the hurricane, please help them, give grace, help Northridge to be able to show your love again in the future with them, but right now protect them and help them and comfort them. And we give you our nation, God, because our nation is going through crazy times, and we just trust you with it. We give you our church in this pandemic time and all that you want to accomplish. We know you're building your church, and it's going to prevail against the gates of hell. We know your mission's alive for the church, and we just ask that you would help us to stay on mission and stay focused. Help us not to get focused on the crazy. Help us to keep focusing on our Christ. And be with each one who's engaged right now with Thursday Live and with me. Help them to experience, let your grace be sufficient for each and every one of us. And we'll thank you for it, God, in Jesus, our Savior's name. Amen. All right. Well, I appreciate you engaging me that way. And don't forget, in every single day of your life, you need to have a be still and know that God is God moment. And, if you need help doing that, call a friend. And keep connecting with us. And we'll go forward. But with that behind us, I want to, with that addressed, not behind us, but with that addressed and discussed and conversed about, I just wanted to share with you where we're at in real time. And this is really important for me to do. I've told you all along that as God is leading and making clear direction for Northridge Church, or change for Northridge Church, or new ways of going forward, that I'd communicate with you immediately, that you'd be the first to know, that we wouldn't, if you're hearing something going on, if you're hearing that for more than a week and you don't hear it from me, it's not going on. And so I have to right up front say, there's no way I can fully materialize my communication of these announcements and these updates and the things that are coming down the pike with me communicating to you in real time. But I would rather communicate to you how God's leading and what we're sensing Him doing in our environment, and what doors are beginning to open up for us as soon as we can, to give you hope and encouragement, excitement, to get you praying and knowing that Northridge is moving forward, and how, than to have a perfect strategy and to have prepared it in a perfect communication. So just so you know, some of this stuff is going to evolve. It's malleable. There are going to be some changes to it, but in real time, I'm going to share with you where we're at and why. I have been communicating a long time to you, Northridge, that we aren't going to base our decisions on outside pressures or on other people's agendas. It's like people are going to push us one way. Everybody has a different idea about what we should be doing, and we're not going to listen to all those voices. We're just not. And though we respect and love the Church of Jesus Christ by whatever name, wherever, if they're honoring His truth and they're honoring His name and they're worshiping Him, we honor them. But as all churches are one in Jesus, the truth is God has different missional purposes and personalities and plans for every church, just like He does with us. All human beings are very much similar, but God's created each one genetically different, with a different plan and a different strategy for them, a different mission for them, and then together we can create the mosaic of His beauty better than we can if we were all automatons exactly the same, and churches are like that. And so we aren't going to follow other churches' patterns and how other churches are doing it. That's just, we can learn from them and have, and listen to them and have, and that, but not be like them. So we've been basing our decision making on three principles. Love for God. I mean, that's the great command. Love God with all your hearts, all your souls, all your minds and strength. And by loving Him, that means we don't want to please the loudest voices. We don't want to please by bending to other people's agendas for us. We want to please God, bring Him pleasure. And the way we're going to bring Him pleasure, obviously, is keeping Him in the rightful place. He's the Lord of the church. It's His kingdom come, His will be done. And that means we're going to follow His truth. And if someone pushes us to compromise His truth, we won't do it. And thankfully, we live in a state that did not mandate that we couldn't meet as a church. They didn't do that. The church was excluded from any kind of shutdown mandate. And so it's not like the state was telling us we couldn't worship God the way we wanted to, like in California and some other places that they've had to fight it. But part of following, loving God is doing what He says in His Word. And one of the things He says is, as long as they're not pressing you to live against His truth, submit to the authorities, submit to the governing authorities around you, pray for them, submit to them, respect them. And we've tried to do that, and we're going to continue to do that because we love God and want to bring Him pleasure. Second one is to love others. We have to love others enough not to want to hurt them or put them at risk or push them away from Christ needlessly, those kind of things. And the pandemic, when we suspended our services in the beginning of March, the pandemic, it was filled with so many uncertainties that we didn't know if meeting would actually hurt people, cause damage to people, could infect them. And so we wanted to love them enough to not do that and love others as ourselves, right? Protect them just like we're going to protect our family. And so that's what we've been doing. And everything was uncertain because there wasn't enough data and people didn't know what this virus was and how to go about it. And it's a real virus. It's made real people that we know sick, and it's taken the lives of real people. The medical community has caught up to it, and the different things that have been introduced have has widened the virus impact as it relates to death rate. And so now we're getting big data on what the harm rate could be so that we can love people. And that leads us to the third principle, and that's wisdom. Where God says if we lack wisdom, we'd ask of God and he'd give it to us if we trust him for it. And man, we've been asking him for wisdom this whole time. Give us wisdom on how to best love you and to love others and to fulfill our mission in this world. And I have to be honest, I haven't felt a compelling touch of his wisdom about moving forward until just in this last several days, week and a half, where it's becoming clear. And I want to explain that to you and then tell you what we're going to do as a result of it. One of the things that came to me is the uncertainties of the pandemic made me as a shepherd want to protect others, protect you who are part of Northridge, and then protect anyone who come in to love others. And so with it all being uncertain, we shut down. But now the data has come down. I'm just going to give you one number. The chances of dying in Michigan, and it's less in other states, but in Michigan, the chance of dying from contracting the virus is 0.06%. 0.06%, not even 0.1%, not 1%, not even close. 0.06%, which means your probability, get the virus or not, your probability of dying, your chance of dying with the virus is only 0.06, which means you have a 99.94% probability of not dying. The truth is, I mean, you probably have a greater probability of getting hurt and dying getting in your car to go to Walmart or Kroger to do your essential things or go to work than to, contract the virus and die. And that may or may not be true in probabilities, but it's a very low probability. And here's what God started really prompting my heart to do, and I've talked to other spiritual leaders around, and there's agreement. God didn't call me to be the senior nanny. God didn't call me to seek to control people's lives so significantly that they had no freedom whatsoever to make a choice that might lead to their hurt. I can't challenge you not to get in your car and go to Walmart. That'd be ridiculous. I can't challenge you not to get in an airplane and go. That's crazy. And because the probability of actual death or harm from this virus is so low, it doesn't make sense that I, as the senior pastor of this church, would tell you that you can't make the choice to have an in-person worship experience in an environment that's following CDC and state guidelines and trying to keep safe and lower those probabilities and do it in the right way. It just doesn't make sense that I would say you can't do that. That would be Brad the senior nanny instead of Brad the senior pastor encouraging and supporting. And so we're going to start moving forward on the opportunity to make sure that we provide spiritual support and encouragement for people with every perspective towards this, including those who would really like to make the choice to do some in-person worship. Now, the very first thing I want to say to you is we are not trying to market you to come to church. We want you to be absolutely comfortable with your choices. And we want to, as a church, support you and encourage you in your choices and to provide then spiritual support for you to grow, whatever those are. And we really would encourage a lot of you to continue to choose to do online only. In fact, our primary emphasis in how we plan our services and produce and shoot them are going to be to make sure that we're providing online services that are intimate, engaging, encouraging, and special and supportive for everyone who engages there. Because the truth is, the majority of people are going to continue to engage online. That's just where they're at. But there are others who would like to step in and do the in-person experience, and we're going to start now opening that door for them. But no one should feel guilty for saying, you know what, that's too much of a risk for me, I'm staying at home. those of you with very young kids, like little babies to 4 years old, really, we'd probably be encouraging you. We can't provide nurseries and preschool and kid environments, and those kids can't wear a mask, and trying to maintain them in a controlled environment, it doesn't make sense. We'd probably encourage you, enjoy your living room, give them their toys, that kind of thing. And stay home. If you're at risk elderly or at risk in other ways, then stay at home. If you're just uncomfortable with it, stay at home. If you just really love church online, okay, we're going to support you in that way. But we just believe that it's wrong to say to those who really would like to do in person, you can't, based upon the fact that the data doesn't show that we would be putting them at risk. We are, so, going to move forward with that. And so on September 12th and 13th, that's the weekend after Labor Day, caveat, that's the very first weekend I have the privilege of being back teaching as a part of the services. On September 12th and 13th, as we kick off our new ministry season, we are going to have our first in-person worship opportunity for Northridge Church. Again, it will be totally recorded, so for those of you who don't want to do this, it'll be online and just a great service there. But for those of you who do, it's going to be at the Plymouth campus only, like a baptism service would be. We've always, all three of our churches have gathered in one place for baptism events because it's so special. Well, this is our first in-person worship experience opportunity at Northridge. And since the Plymouth campus has a lot more property than the other ones, we're going to have an outside worship and service experience at Northridge Plymouth campus. And that's September 12th, 13th. It will be all three services, the 5:16, the 9:16, and the 11:16. And I have to tell you, my heart's beating fast, and I'm trying not to get overexcited because, once again, we're not trying to pressure, twist the arm, and manipulate anyone to do this, but it's a great opportunity for those of us who want to take that step. And we're going to have the whole team gathered outside, and we're going to produce it out there. The cameras will be out there, the jibs will be out there for the online experience, but then you'll be able to bring lawn chairs and blankets and good night picnic, whatever you want to do. And we're going to have it all prepared for you, socially distanced. We're actually going to draw circles, and those in your pod or your family, those people you already have a close relationship with in this pandemic time, you can come together and sit in one of those circles, and then other people sit in circles. They'll all be appropriately distanced. And what we're going to be asking, you'll get more information, but we're going to be asking that people come in masks, and they don't take those masks off until they're safely guided by our team into a pod distance thing and sat down, and then how you keep them on or whatever you want at that point. And we're going to have these services, 3 of them on the 12th and 13th. And what we're going to do, because we don't know how many are going to come. I mean, it might be, Lincoln, me, and Roxanne, and, a friend. Or it might be more than that. But to get a sense of it, we're going to do a registration. And so we're going to ask you to register for, and the link's going to come up tonight. I think they said they'd have it up at least by 8:30. But all you do is go to northridgechurch.com/outdoor services, northridgechurch.com/outdoor services. And a place that you can see all the different things that are going on, and you can register, and we'd love to know you and who's going to be with you so we can make sure a pod's available for you and which service it's going to be, Saturday 5:16, Sunday 9:16, Sunday 11:16. And then we'll have a sense of it. We're not trying to exclude people, we're just really trying to know how many are going to come, because we have no idea. And we want to best prepare for you. And we're going to actually have just ways to really keep you safe, make you feel safe. We're going to be taking the temperatures of people who are going into the restrooms and those kind of things. We're just going to try and prepare it. We're going to encourage those of you who are coming and you're not feeling well not to come. And you can read all those things at northridgechurch.com/outdoor services, okay? And we're going to have all Northridge staff there at the event, and their temperatures are going to be checked, and it's going to be great. And can I just say, the online service is going to be great, so all those of you who chose to stay home, that's great. But if you come, I'm really excited about it. And you can bring your families and your kids to this thing and all that stuff, but you're going to need to control them and keep them safe and not hug a bunch of people, not go outside of your pod. All right? So I can't wait to see the comments, because the way I'm doing this right now, I'm not seeing your comments. So I hope some of you are encouraged. And I hope if you're going, oh my gosh, I can't believe they're doing this, I hope you know we're doing something for you, not to you. So if you're someone that doesn't want to do it, isn't that great? You don't have to do it, and you're going to have everything that we were providing before. And if you're someone that does want to do it, isn't it great? Now we're for you and supporting you in that way, and you can do it. And we shouldn't leverage that. We're all in different places, and it's okay. Then, so you know, the next weekend, September 19th and 20th, the very next weekend, we're going to start. And remember, this is real time, so a lot's going to evolve, but we're going to look to do in-building, in-person worship experience opportunities. And it will be different in Plymouth than it will be at our other regional campuses, Grosse Ile and Brighton. At Plymouth, here's what's going to happen. I don't know if you've ever had the privilege. I've had the privilege a bunch of times of going to a late night show taping. I did it back with David Letterman, and we've done it with Conan O'Brien and Good Night Jimmy Fallon, all these different things. They're pretty fun. But what they do is they shoot their show for the screen, you know, for the people who will be watching it on a screen, whether it's TV or online or whatever. But then they invite in a live audience. They call a studio audience, and those people have a blast. They get to have the experience. They do that. They're engaged in a different way, but they're watching the shooting, and that's exactly what we're going to do in Plymouth. So on September 19th at the 5:16 service, it'll be the first time we invite in for in-person in the building group. And you need to know, we're going to be taking the temperature of everyone who comes in, and each person's going to go through that process. Our staff's going to be helping keep people socially distanced. We're going to be seating people in the auditorium socially distanced. We're going to be keeping with the guideline recommendations, even though the state doesn't mandate this for churches. Going to stick with the CDC and state guidelines of how to socially distance and fill up our auditorium, and there will be limits. And so, you know, I mean, people come and oops, okay, we're done with that. And here's what's happening. We're starting it with the 5:16 service only at Plymouth as a studio audience. If we have so many people that want to engage that, and it's a good experience and it's going well and we're able to control it and people are responding well, we might move it to the 9:16 too, or the 11:16. But we're starting, just so you know, and remember, real time, I don't have a professionally rehearsed speech going. We're taking baby steps, phased increments. We're not leaping too far ahead, and we're going to learn from experience what we're doing right and doing wrong, and how to keep people safe and do this right, and love God, love others, and be wise. And so that's in Plymouth, and we'll look for information to come out on that really soon. And then we also, at the campuses, our regional campuses, Grosse Ile and Brighton, are as much a part of Northridge as Plymouth, but they're different sizes and different scopes and have different challenges. In some ways, they will be a little bit easier to manage and maintain because of the smaller number of people coming in, but in some ways more difficult. Like at Grosse Ile, it's you know, smaller entryways and lobby and entry into the auditorium, and it's smaller, so it's going to be harder. But just, I mean, we want our regional campuses that are a part of Northridge Church to experience the same support from Northridge at being able to worship and go forward as anyone who would come to Plymouth. And so even today I was on a Zoom call with the campus pastors and others talking about this, and all day long we've been talking with our creative team about the best way now to start moving the creative team from a centralized video only thing to letting some be in Brighton and Grosse Ile, and there are a lot of difficult things about it, and but we're working through it. And so at Brighton and Grosse Ile, the plan now is that you would have your regular Sunday services, 9:16 and 11:16 at both places, socially distanced, population control, and you would have some live worship. It'll probably be more acoustic and a little bit slower. It's not going to be a huge team because they have to socially distance. And you need to know that our worship teams at all of our sites are not going to be like interacting and intermingling. We're going to stay separated and be socially distanced, but it's an in-person opportunity, and we'll learn a lot from this. And so that's September 19th and 20th, and you'll get more about that. Keep checking our website, and I'll certainly be announcing more about that on the weekend, and then on we go from there. So guess what we're doing? We're moving forward with love for God, love for others, and wisdom. And again, my heart's beating a little faster about it, and it's really exciting, and I hope we'll be really praying about this thing. And then we're also introducing another thing, because we believe that the vast majority of people are still going to be watching online, and that makes a lot of sense, I mean, with what's going on. Another thing we're doing is we're creating watch parties. Pete's done a really good job of talking about the watch parties, where you can get together with people that you're comfortable being with, part of your relational investment, your neighbors, and invite them to watch the services online with you. And we can go from 3 worship campuses to hundreds of worship campuses, your homes, and wherever you're at, you can have these watch parties. And it's a way that you can even invite unbelievers who you're in relationship with and you're in a pod with to come and watch. And wow, we can start waking the world up to Jesus that way. And that's starting September 12th and 13th as well. Even though we're doing those outside services, many are going to still be online, and we're wanting to encourage you to walk forward that way. And here's what we really want. And Pete made a really strong and clear communication about this. We're wanting to know how many of you would be willing to host those watch parties, to start bringing connection and community into watching the services in your homes. And in order if you're interested in doing that, if you'd like, we're going to give you packages and support and encouragement and help you with that. All you have to do is send a text to the number 313131. You know, that's our texting number, 313131, and the message you send is just watch. So that's the text message, watch. And if you do that, then we'll know you're interested in talking about hosting a party, and we can come alongside and get that information and help you go forward. It's going to be cool. Think about this, all the different ways. We don't have to engage waking the world up to Jesus one way. We get to engage waking the world up to Jesus in all these different ways. And I think watch parties are going to be a really cool way to do it. And so I hope you'll be praying about this, engaged about it. I can't wait to see your comments about this thing, communicating about it. If you have questions, I encourage you, if you know people on our ministry team or on our staff, ask them, and they can get answers to it, or you can send in questions about that. We'd just love to hear it. And we're going to learn. Remember, these are real-time things, and some of this stuff's going to change. We're going to get better and better at this. But know this, we're going to try and keep people safe. We're going to try and do the right thing. And we're going to try and support each of you, whatever your choices is, as you want to grow in Jesus. And if you're not comfortable stepping into these other environments, please keep watching online, okay? That's a cool way to do it. And here's how I want to end. And we've already prayed for the world and for each other. I'm excited about moving forward, really feel like we have God's wisdom on that. But I want to thank you, Northridge family. This last week, many of you participated in one of the applications Pete gave to our Love Does series called Love Gives. And you gave $1, or you gave $1 for each person in your family, some of you, and you gave more than that, for a way for us to express Jesus' love to someone in need. And we're really excited about sharing the impact of your response to that this coming weekend. So don't miss it. Don't miss it. Hi, I'm Brad. I'm a professional communicator. But don't miss it, because Pete will be continuing in the Love Does series, but you'll be seeing the download of the impact of your giving, and you're going to see, wow, love does make an impact. So thanks for being a part of the Northridge family. Thanks for loving God. Thanks for loving others. Thanks for seeking wisdom. Keep praying. And I'm really, really excited about all the opportunities we're going to have to wake the world up to Jesus, to show his love, to tell his truth, and to involve people. And I'm just glad you're part of the Northridge family. So until next Thursday Live, you'll see me on the week. I'm going to shoot a video and talk about this move forward as well. But Pete will be giving the talk. Worship team will be there. And next Thursday, I'll be back live with you, and I can't wait to spend more time with you, because I'll need another moment to be still and know that he's God. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time, okay? And thanks for joining me tonight.